Good morning, everyone. You know what time it is. Welcome back to Coach Steele's Finance Training. Happy to have everybody in the building on today. Let's see if I can cut on some music and get this party started. Again, in the comment section, say hello, where you're from, especially if I don't know you. I would like to hear where my listeners are from, what state you're in. But welcome again to Coach Steele's Finance Training. We are happy to have you tuning in on today and have your face in the place. We are going to get this party started. I am your host. I am Coach Steele. And here at Coach Steele's Finance Training, we talk about all things financial literacy. You name it, we've probably discussed it. And so we're happy to have everybody tuning in on today. We have another awesome topic on today. I'm really pumped up about this topic. It should be pretty interesting to kind of see where everybody's mindset is, what y'all are thinking about this subject as well. And so, uh, what I need you all to do is make sure you subscribe to Coach Steele's Finance Training. Even if you're listening in on YouTube, make sure you even if you're listening on Facebook, make sure you subscribe. Our topic today is 50-year mortgages, the pros and the cons. And I'm interested to hear what you all have to say when it comes to the subject of 50-year mortgages. Tell me how you really feel. So it'll be an interesting subject as we talk today. And good morning to Mr. Tony Sherman. Happy to have you tuning in here on Coach Steele's Finance Training. And as you all dive into the room, feel free to share this live as we're going live. And I'm interested in hearing your thoughts and your comments today when we deal with this 50-year mortgage. And so just to give you a quick update about this topic, it's because Donald Trump, President Trump, mentioned and suggested about trying to, we have 15-year mortgages, we have 30-year mortgages. Actually, people don't even know this. There are 40-year mortgage options right now. All lenders don't provide that option, but it's out there. But he's now saying, hey, let's extend it. Let's set up a 50-year mortgage. And so some people are like, wait, what? What is a 50-year mortgage? How does that apply to us? How does it affect us? And so talking about 50-year mortgage options on today is going to be interesting for a lot of people, whether it's first-time home buyers, whether it's real estate investors, whether it's my real estate agents out there. I'm really interested to see what my real estate agents feel about 50-year mortgages and how it's going to affect your ability to sell or not sell houses. Do you feel like you can sell more houses now? Or do you feel like you'll be able to sell less houses? So all of that is very interesting. There's so many dynamics on how this is going to affect everyone. So this is going to be a great conversation on today. If you know some people are interested in buying houses, maybe you'll tag them in on this and we can have their input as well. But we're going to have a great conversation about this. Last week, we had a good conversation about financial literacy as well. So 50-year mortgages, pros and cons. Donald Trump brings up the suggestion, and what he's leaning on is the history of when we extend mortgages. So mortgages, there wasn't even 30-year mortgages until FDR, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, came up with, in the New Deal, up under his rule and leadership as president in America, the topic and the subject of 30-year mortgages was not a thing. But through President FDR, it became a thing. And when it became a thing, it helped a lot with things that happened back in, he came up with this, after you're dealing with the Great Depression and things like that and trying to make homes affordable, in this New Deal and coming up with all these reforms to make houses more affordable for people who were struggling and trying to get back on their feet. And so with people struggling, trying to get back on their feet, FDR, President FDR comes up with this 30-year mortgage. Good morning to you, Mr. Timothy Scott. We are talking about the idea of 50-year mortgages, the pros and cons. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? How will it benefit you? How will it not benefit you? Will it benefit real estate agents? Will it benefit the bank? Will it benefit homeowners? You name it, first-time buyers. So we do understand FDR came up with this, and when he came up with this, it was instituted for 30-year mortgages. More people could afford a home because the mortgage payments were smaller now, and it wasn't as high. It didn't cost as much. You didn't have to come up with all the money as fast. You could take these smaller payments, get in a house. So FDR comes up with this idea. The idea is instituted. And so as y'all are tuning in to Coach Steele's Finance Training, make sure you meet me and greet me. What up? Triple D, what's up? Happy to have you tuning in to Coach Steele's Finance Training as we're talking about 50-year mortgages. FDR comes up with this idea, guys. It's instituted. Many people are getting into houses now. But what I want to talk to you all about today is President Trump is saying if he now duplicates that blueprint of extending the mortgage term, Tony, then at that point, it's going to create a certain effect. This is what he believes. The 50-year mortgage will lower the monthly payments, which is true. When we deal with the facts, the pros and the cons, if a 50-year mortgage is instituted and is accessible to people who want to be homeowners, their monthly payments will be lower. And we'll look at the charts and the graph so that you all can understand the numbers of that and why it will be lower. Now, your monthly payment will be lower, but guess what is going to be higher on the back end? So what you pay every month, in fact, my YouTube listeners, Facebook listeners, my people from TikTok, your monthly payments are going to be lower. But as y'all are listening, make sure you share this live if you can. The monthly payment is lower, but what's going to be higher? As y'all are tuning in, who has the answer to that? And so that monthly payment on a 50-year mortgage is going to be lower than a 30-year mortgage, definitely lower than a 15-year mortgage. And so for some people who can't get into certain houses because the mortgage payment would be too high on a 30-year mortgage, a 50-year mortgage, it would slide them right on in there. Let's see what we have here. All right. What we got here? Worst thing for buyer in long-term, but crazy interest. And so the interest rate, check this out. The interest rate is going to stay the same over the term of a 30-year mortgage or the 50-year mortgage. But yes, Mr. Sherman, what you're talking about is the final total interest that you pay over that 50-year amount of time. It's going to be bananas. And I got an example for you all to show you. Yes, Mr. Tim Scott, the banks get richer. And what's going to be interesting about this, when you mention that, Tim, when you do a 30-year mortgage or a 50-year mortgage, interest is front loaded. So when you're making payments to pay off your property, to pay off your house, in the first 10 to 12 years, you're paying a lot of interest on your payments that you make on the house. The principal and interest, most of it's going to interest. A little of it is going to principal. So it's hard to get equity in your house. It's hard to pay down the house effectively if you only make the payments based on how they have them set up. So I love this topic because when we get to these pros and cons, I'm going to make y'all think a little bit different about this whole mortgage situation. Good morning to you, Miss Shauna Johnson. Happy to have you tuning in. It's going to be crazy for some people. Like Tim said, the banks win, but there's another way for other people to win too. And yes, Tony Sherman, if you end up paying this house over the 50-year term based on the basic payments that they tell you to pay over a period of time, you probably will pay for the house at least twice, maybe three times, especially with interest rates up here around 6.5%. Most people end up, I'm going to change your mind, Tony. No, I'm not. But if you have high interest rates, then you may end up paying this house at least twice minimum. Plus, sometimes people refinance or cash out or have emergencies. And yes, they end up paying for it almost three. All right, let's see what Mr. Mickey says. Mr. Mickey says, I mean, you could still pay the mortgage off fast, but have the safety valve of lower cash flow output for the consumer. And that's one point that I'm going to get to, Mickey, is how a consumer, let's say, I don't know, you just got a job, you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, and you do this 50-year mortgage thing. You do increase your cash flow, which we'll get to that in that demonstration, but it doesn't mean you have to stay stuck, Tony, to the payment schedule that they have you on. Because anybody knows, and I talk about it all the time, don't limit yourself to what the bank says your payments have to be. You can run the strategy that I keep telling people about, which is using the HELOC strategy to pay off your mortgage faster. And if that's something you're interested in and you want to pay off that 50-year mortgage or 30-year mortgage in less than 5 to 7 years, then you need to get with me and I can get you connected. Or let's say you got 5 years left on your mortgage or 3 years left on your mortgage and you want to pay it off faster, then you can save yourself interest, save yourself time, and increase your cash flow sooner by getting the information and the knowledge. And so if you're willing to invest in knowledge and information, you can save yourself thousands of dollars. There's something called opportunity cost. So the longer you wait, the more money you end up wasting and spending anyway. All right, we got Mr. Tony Sherman. He says his mind is made up. A lot of people going to do it, especially for the ones who probably couldn't get it exactly. However, Judy, maybe she's going to say just may work. I wouldn't count it out. And so what it's going to do, one thing that you're talking about, Kashana Johnson, is yes, it's going to open up the door and opportunity for some people who could not afford to get into houses because the monthly payments were too high. It's going to lower that payment to help them qualify to get in the door and get more people into houses. It's going to open that housing market back up. But then there's some issues there, because if more people can get into houses, then supply and demand. There is a shortage of houses in the market right now. And because there's a shortage of houses in the market, ladies and gentlemen, anytime demand is high and supply is low, the price of a house might increase. So we have that issue there. Now, it's not a bad thing, right? Let's say you're a real estate investor like myself. If you're a real estate investor and because of this 50-year mortgage, am I upset if the price and the value of houses go up? No, because as an investor, as an owner of assets, which we preach and teach and talk about here on Coach Steele's Finance Training, which is why you need to make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, because you can continue to get this knowledge, this information, especially my business owners and entrepreneurs. We're constantly preaching on how to grow and increase our wealth. This is something that you learn. It's going to benefit you. Inflation doesn't work against you. It works for you. All right. Dante says, it's so aggravating wanting to get into a house with all this. It can be aggravating, or you can figure out how to work to your benefit. Oh, I'm excited about this on today, because depending on your avenue of approach, your entryway into real estate, you can strategically make this work for your good. If you have a 50-year mortgage, your payments are lowered. Mr. Tony Sherman doesn't care about that, because he knows on the back end, you're going to end up paying more for that house. If you're on a 30-year mortgage, your payments are slightly higher. All right, Dante, what if I get a duplex? Let's say I want to buy a house and I need a place for my family to stay. Instead of rushing to get the single family house, the 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, what if I go get a duplex and I do a 50-year mortgage and I only stay in that duplex for 1 year, but the year that I'm staying in there, the other tenant, the person paying for the other door, is paying basically the mortgage payment because I'm going to charge them rent, right? So now they're paying me rent. I'm paying the mortgage payment on this duplex that I'm staying in. You're only required to stay in the property for 1 year. Then I move out of that property. Because it's a 50-year mortgage on a potential duplex, the payments are lower, smaller. So my profit margin on the rent that I'm going to make off of those two doors, it increases because I set it up for a 50-year mortgage. The tenants are going to pay that down. It's generational wealth. I can eventually pay the house off quicker because I am making rent profit, make extra payments, pay it down, or I can keep those profits and live off of it with passive income. So what I'm trying to say here is there is a smooth way to flip this and make it work to your benefit to actually help you pay for the house that you really, really want. Let's go deeper. Let's look at some of these comments in here because y'all are on fire today. Who couldn't get a 30-year mortgage and go for 50-year? So yes, those who couldn't get a 30-year might be able to fit in a 50-year depending on what type of house they get. And there's going to be a trickle-down effect, guys, too. When you think about this, if there was a bigger house or something more extravagant, a $500,000, $1 million house, and you couldn't afford it, the payments, you got to remember, America is brainwashed. Most Americans, when they go to a car lot, when it comes to buying a house, they never care about the price of that liability. They only want to know one thing. Can I make the monthly payments? That's what they sell you on. Most people, they put those blinders on and all they think about is, can I make the monthly payments? And if they can show you where you can make the monthly payments and it's comfortable, then people are going to buy bigger houses. So now people who are staying in certain properties are going to upgrade to bigger properties because now they can make the payment. What they're doing is the same thing that car businesses did. Instead of getting a car agreement for a 3-year lease, I mean, not a 3-year lease, but 3 years worth of payments, now they just extend it to 6 years. Now it's affordable. Get the car you want. Same thing with the houses. Many of y'all are going to be living in $1 million houses because the payment's going to be lower. So anyway, let's go a little bit deeper. The real problem is that the cost of homes is going to go up so much. Is it a problem, Mickey, if you're a real estate investor, if the cost of homes go up? It's debatable. I can now sell a lot of properties and make a lot of profit and maybe buy an apartment complex. They sell payment, and since you can lower the payment with time, the total cost of the home will cost more to match consumer comfort level of what payment they can afford. And so, yes, somebody mentioned this earlier. The banks are going to win from this. I mean, really, they're going to win big time. I think banks will win from this. I believe investors will win from this. And Mickey puts, for example, $300K home will easily cost $750K or more with the 50-year mortgage. I think this is a great time. Let's see here. And I want to get to Dante and Sherman's comment, but I like what Mickey's doing right here. So I'm going to stay with that and touch on that. Worse than 2008, 2009 subprime loans, ARM loans. Yes, this could get a little nasty. I don't know if it'll be worse than 2008, 2009. And I want y'all to really start thinking about this. And as y'all are here with Coach Steele's Finance Training, if you want to, make sure you share this live. I think this is a great conversation to talk about so that people can understand what options are coming. There's a lot of things coming down the road. Example, Jerome Powell, who is basically over the Federal Reserve right now, he's getting ready to be out of that seat next year, 2026. And Donald Trump is going to put the person he wants in that seat. So now we're going to have the effect of potential interest rates dropping because President Trump wants the rates dropped. He gets to put the person in seat. Also, he wants to set up 50-year mortgage. So lower rates, 50-year mortgage, decrease on how much you have to pay to get in a house. He's trying to find a way to open up this real estate market and make things boom. Now, that's just a small piece of the puzzle, right? Because you still have to have inventory. You still have to make it more affordable for investors and home builders, construction, to build these properties to get them on the market. All right, let's go deeper here. My problem is I can't see paying for a house twice in my lifetime on a mortgage 30 years. But then having a crazy mortgage, I feel like one mistake, one surgery, then I'm screwed. If I miss a mortgage, it can put me crazy behind. Very good point. So there's something that I teach, Dante. It's called accelerated strategy. It's using the HELOC method to pay off a mortgage fast. So one thing that I've done, I've paid off a house in 7 years before, and recently I paid off a house in 3 years and 7 months. So I'm never going to pay a mortgage for 30 years or for 50 years. Now, there's some tricky things going on here, and I'm going to get back to Mickey's point earlier. And so, no, you don't necessarily want to pay for a mortgage for 50 years. Like, when would you have to buy the house? There's a statistic that I read. It says the average home buyer is around 40 years old. About 40 years old. So if the average person is buying a house at 40 and they get a 50-year mortgage, somebody do the math. Somebody do the math. How are you ever going to retire? There is a thing going on in America where the mentality is just borrow and never own anything. Borrow, have a lien on it, but never own, never have. You're not able to necessarily consistently pass down generational wealth without it having overhead or some type of debt attached to it when it comes to real estate in that 50-year mortgage span. The average person isn't going to pay the 50-year mortgage off. But the definition, when you look up the word mortgage, it gives you some more history there. So what I want to do is give you all an example. I want to give you an example of what it would look like. Let's see here. Where would be a good example to show you? Move that out the way. So let's see if I can get my example to pop back up for me. I want to give an example of what, and move this out of the way. Oh, there we go. I'm going to share my screen so we can see the example of a 30-year mortgage payment versus. Oh yeah, I got to remember I have to supersize everything so y'all can see it on your end as well. All right, so if you had a home, and let's say now the average price of a home in America is definitely over $300,000. If you stay in a small town like I do, or in some other areas, especially in Georgia, South Georgia, you can find houses for $300,000 or less. But in average America, and especially in big cities or in states like California and New York, 300,000 is like a miracle if you can find something that affordable there. But let's use this as an example. If you paid 300,000 for a house, and let's say the interest rate is 6.5% for that 30-year mortgage. No, this is for the 50-year. For the 50-year mortgage, I'm gonna slide it over right here. Now, when I show you this amount right here, it is just the principal and interest payment. It's not including property tax. So let's be clear. That monthly payment on a 50-year mortgage for that $300,000 house is $1,691.15. So let's round it down, $1,691. All right, now that's the 50-year mortgage. Let's look at if it were a 30-year mortgage. Let's go to the 30. All right, we got $1,691. It's affordable, so less than $1,700. Let's see if I can get to the right one here. And then we're going to look at what Mickey's saying, how much you would end up paying for it as well. All right. Supersize. We got a 30-year mortgage this time, $300,000. When we slide over, we see, once again, this is just principal and interest, not property tax and insurance. This isn't the escrow. We have $1,896.20. Now, this is where it gets interesting. If the other one was $1,691 and this one is 1896. That means we're saving $205 a month. Oh, I like this. This is so good. So now you're saving $205 a month, 205. 205 a month. Tony, you are saving $205 a month. Now, the higher the house costs, the more money you save every month, which is what Mickey was talking about when he said you increase your cash flow. Now, when you save that 205 a month, if you still have it, you have some options there. One, you can take that 205 and put it towards the principal to kind of help pay the mortgage down faster than that 50 years. All right. And I see you, Sean, and a few other your comments in here. But you're saving 205 a month. If you save 205 a month, I want you all to see this, because this is going to be the argument for some people and some investors, and it's going to make total, complete sense to them. Now, let me make sure I supersize this. You got an extra $205 a month. So let's do this. What if you save $205 a month for these 50 years? $205 a month for 50 years, and you take that $205 and you invest it S&P 500, the estimated interest rate, to make an average 10% over the past however many 20 years, a little more than that actually. Let's hit calculate. Now, for those of you that don't like the 50-year mortgage, if it saves you $205 a month and you in fact invest that $205, you will have $2,898,432.24. It is possible to have a couple $1 million, almost $3 million, if you take that extra 205 and invest it. Now, this is important because I want you all to get back to, let me put it here. Let me do this. Initial investments, 205. I got excited about the 2.8 million. Let's recalculate. All right, there we go. We're still at 2.8. You got 2.8 million. But what if you were to just do the 30-year mortgage and still save the same 205? We go from 2.8 million. So some of you are worried about having to pay for the house twice, but you'll have 2.8 million if you can put $205 away every month for the next 50 years. Now, here again, I see your comments, Tony. This is getting interesting. If you do it for 30 years, you got $408,232.42. So this is good anyway for some of you all to see the benefits of compound interest. So now you see the difference. You can have 2.8 million or you can have $408,000. Why is all of this important? Let's see if I can share my screen. Let's see if I can make this show up. We are going on a journey, and I appreciate y'all going on this journey with me here on Coach Steele's Finance Training. All right, we're going to stop sharing that screen, and then we're going to go to some of the things that Mr. Mickey was talking about, if I can get to it properly. Almost there. There we go. Found it. Jackpot. Boom. Now, this is what Mickey's talking about. Now, if you look to, let's go here. Might have supersized that too big. There we go. Now, what we're looking at here is if we do a 30-year mortgage for $300,000 at 6.5% interest, because the interest rates are high, then yes, you're going to end up paying like, instead of $300,000, you end up paying like $682,000 for that house. But if you do a 50-year mortgage for $300,000, you'll end up paying $1.2 million. See, that's what Tony Sherman is talking about, and that's kind of what Mickey is talking about. So those are the difference. You're going to pay 1.2. You know what, Tony, you're right. You end up paying 3 times for that house, maybe a little bit more. At 6.5%. So definitely very good point there. And so we see some of the math that we're dealing with. And let me get to these comments because I know y'all turning up over here. Like, y'all got to calm down. Y'all got to calm down. Let's deal with it, though. Let's talk about it. All right. I think we saw this one already. For example, 3. Yep, that's what we dealt with. Mickey says, I won't get angry if my value goes up. I'm going to open up that equity and leverage that for wealth opportunities. I like this. Yes, definitely great conversation, Mr. Mickey. So, yes, Shauna, you could definitely take that duplex because it doesn't mean you have to stay in that duplex forever. I'm going to do a 50-year mortgage so I can make see, as an investor, here's the scary part that a lot of the financial and economic people are out there in the real estate world and all of that. They're saying if the rates are lowered and Trump sets up this 50-year mortgage, they want him to exclude real estate investors and big company investors that can just go buy up the market and single family homes. They don't want them to have access to this 50-year mortgage because they will just buy up homes in droves. And then now everybody has to rent. And they know that they're going to get low payments. And if the payment is low for the investor, if the payment is low for the landlord, they can increase their profit margins and increase their cash flow. And so the investment is good because it's paying them every month profits. So that's something that we have to think about. So if you want to be an investor and capitalize on this, if they exclude investors out, I'm going to come in as a home buyer, live in there for 1 year, and then bounce so I can get the lower rate. Keep in mind, if you struggle to get a property and you had to do the 50-year route to get the house you wanted, you can always potentially, check this out, refinance back into a 30. Now, it might be difficult because here's some of the dangers of the 50-year mortgage. A majority of your payments is like a lot of that is going straight to the interest. So you're not really, here's one of the cons when we talk about pros and cons of getting a 50-year mortgage. You're not really paying down your equity at the same pace that you would with a 30-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage. That 50-year mortgage, paying down the interest on that thing to have some equity in there, mission impossible, because all of that payment is going to the bank, a majority of it. So let's go deeper here. Tony Sherman says, the door price. We got Dante say, looks like solution to this one. I just need to make more money. Make more money to buy a house? I don't think so. It's not that you may need to make more money. You can just be creative and strategic with what you buy and the price you buy it at, and then leverage it later for what you want. But it's something we could go deeper about. And I may not be understanding what you're saying. Tony says basically who's going to be investing at 205 for 50 years because life be life. And that's the argument that they're making is you can take the difference and invest it and use that to help pay for the house or completely pay it off when you hit a certain age because you have access to the whatever million. But you are correct. Furloughs happen, layoffs happen, which we've talked here at Coach Steele's finance training. And so what Pamela is also saying is life is unpredictable. There's no guarantee that you have that job for 50 years. The government shuts down. Sometimes, let me see what Tony says here. He said, my blood pressure going up don't make sense for a regular person working 40 hours a week. Correct. The average person, this doesn't make sense for. A real estate investor to make a higher profit margin makes perfect sense. Tim already said this earlier. The banks win. The banks win big from this. And so what do we got here, Pam? How can you get around physically living in the property for a year legally? Oh, so you don't want to have to live in it for a year. What if your job, Pam, causes for you to have to travel often? Then maybe you have to stay in different states. What if you have a work from home job? So those are some hints out there. These are some good questions and good comments that are coming back about this subject. But I want to give you all some good pros and cons so that when things are changed and shift in this economy, how you know, so you can learn how to capitalize on these things and we not be victim. Okay, Dante, I lost all my money. I bought four houses when I moved out here, and I lost all of them because I didn't know about capital gain. So basically, I don't have play money for my next house to invest in. So I'm at square zero now. I wish I would have known you when you had these four houses. This is interesting conversation. So you had four houses and you didn't know about capital gain. So are you talking about when you sold the house, like you had rental properties and then you sold them? And when you sold the rental investment properties, the one that wasn't your primary, you had to pay capital gain tax on the sale, plus you had to pay the agent or whoever else. Everybody got their money, the government got their money, and you got very little. I'm guessing that might be what you're talking about. And you might have been taxed uh, twice, capital gain tax, taxes from the state. So I'm guessing that's what he's talking about. Oh, because you didn't know buying a house and flipping it within 8 months was not a good idea. I was just telling someone the other day, Dante, they were asking me for advice. I had a client and I was working with him, and he was trying to buy, he's getting ready to buy a property in Illinois. And he's getting a good deal. He's going to buy it for 60,000. I think he's putting about 20,000 into it. So he's going to be like 80,000 in the hole. And then he said, Simon, once I fix it and flip it, should I just sell it at that point? And I told him, I said, why not put a tenant in the property and make monthly rent from it? And if the rent profit is good, keep it. But if you don't care for it, you fix it up, you flipped it. And I think even though he put 80 into it, it was going to end up being worth 180,000, 170. So he can walk away, sell it and make, 90 to 100,000 profit. I told him, put the tenant in there, make rent, be patient, and then later on just sell it as the value of it increase and the tenant's in there. Another investor comes and buys it. It's cash flowing, bada boom, bada bang. And so maybe that's something that would have benefited you as well. I didn't know buying a house and flipping it within 8 months was not a good idea. I don't know why that's not a good idea. What's wrong with flipping a house in 8 months? People do it all the time. So I don't think that's a bad idea. No, I bought them, fixed them up, and then put them back on the market. Yeah, I don't think that was a bad idea that you did that. People fix and flip all the time and make a profit. They have businesses out of that. So as we continue to look at these pros and cons, and and yes, the price of houses might go up, but it's easier for people to qualify. It does improve the cash flow for investors and it improves cash flow for homeowners temporarily. But the only problem is, as Mr. Sherman says, you're going to end up paying for that house like you're going to end up paying for the house like three times. Now, far as tenants, and I think that's where Dante's going, is because people don't take care of their own stuff, let alone the place they live in. Well, I have a few doors, Dante. And what I did was I get property management and they constantly do inspections. And because they constantly do inspections, I don't have to be there. They do that, they take pictures, they give requirements for the tenants and things like that. So they're able to catch things early if things are getting out of hand. And they reserve the right to help the tenant move on to a better location or a different location as well if they aren't maintaining the standards. So yeah, sometimes people don't take care of their stuff, but that doesn't mean just because they don't take care of their stuff that you can't make a profit as an investor and have passive income coming in every month. All right. We got Pam saying, I mean, renting versus Airbnb. It's almost the same thing. Airbnb is renting. It's just short-term rental or long-term rental. That's the only difference. When it comes to Airbnb, Pamela, I don't have an Airbnb right now. I wish I did because it has great tax benefits, but it's just short-term rental. And so there's probably a lot of other things you have to deal with the turnaround. You got to have someone to make sure that they clean up the place. You have more people coming in and out of the place, so there may be. I don't think there'll be more wear and tear on your stuff, but there are other things to factor. You got to have someone who manages it, and you need to make sure you have the admin stuff set in place so you can make sure you get your payments. But it's basically about the same, just more cleanup. And I'm sure there's other things to it, but there's bigger tax breaks when it comes to the Airbnb as opposed to long-term rental tax shelters. And I already told you all you can invest more. Some people they want to like have extra cash flow to build up their emergency fund. Well, with the 50-year mortgage, I guess you could build up your emergency fund quicker because you have extra cash flow with the lower payment. And for some people, if they can lower their monthly payments, they feel like they have reduced the stress in their life. And so over decades, you know what your payment is going to be for a long time. We already talked about some of the cons. Basically, you're going to pay way more in total interest. Even right now, with a 30-year mortgage, the total interest that you're paying over a period of time is disgusting. It's nasty. A 6.5% interest, you're paying for the house at least twice, like we showed and like Mickey mentioned as well. So you don't want to pay all of that interest over a period of time, which is why I recommend using the HELOC strategy. If you don't know what the HELOC strategy is, in my description, I have some links. You're going to see links to M1 Finance, high yield interest savings accounts. You'll see other links in there, but I do have a link all the way at the bottom that you can click on and learn more about the HELOC strategy and how you pay your mortgage, a 30-year mortgage off in 5 to 7 years. Also, you can take a 50-year mortgage and pay it off in 5 to 7 years. So me personally, although I'm not a fan of the 50-year mortgage either, Tony, I could see where if I had to use it to acquire a potential future asset, how I would leverage this concept of a 50-year mortgage of President Trump trying to basically duplicate what President FDR did in the 1930s and instituted in 1948. The 30-year mortgage didn't start till 1948 when President FDR, President Roosevelt, instituted the 30-year mortgage. But in 1948, he only did that for new homes. And then what happened was in 1954, any existing home could then do a 30-year mortgage. And so they extended the mortgage amortization so that they could make homes more affordable. President Trump, who admires President Roosevelt, is basically kind of duplicating the concept, but extending the numbers. And in other words, Trump is saying, if this helped fix the real estate market back then, and there's nothing new under the sun, basically he's saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just continue to do what worked last time. So now, of course, it works for the bank and it works better for the economy, but for the average American, it's borrow everything and never own anything. Some people say rent everything and never own. But if you buy a house, you're technically the owner. It's just a lien on the house. So you don't own it completely 100% outright in a sense, I guess. If you sell it, you got to pay off the lien first. All right. Drawbacks, stretching payments over 50 years means you paid hundreds of thousands of dollars more in interest. All right. And I already told you all this too. You end up building equity very, very slow. You cannot, those monthly payments on a 50-year mortgage, you might as well just give the whole thing to the bank. All right. That means basically probably the first 15 to 20 years, majority of that payment goes to interest. Tiny small amount goes to principal. All right. And like I said earlier, it's going to be harder to refinance that mortgage. And it's going to be harder to sell within those first few years because there's not, like, what if the value of homes decrease? Now you really got a big problem. And you didn't pay down the equity much at all either. Something else they're looking at is, will the interest rates be high or not? And basically at the end of the day, if you buy a 50-year mortgage, like if you don't buy it when you're like 20 years old and you pay it the full length of the term, that means you'd have to make it to 70. Most people who buy a 50-year mortgage, because the average homeowner in America is buying houses at 40 years old, you're going to outlive like the loan is going to be for 50 years. So you'd have to try to like make it to 90 or 100 years old to pay off the mortgage. So that's where it could be a horrible and a bad idea, because how can you retire if you have this huge 1,800, $2,000 monthly payment? And so who might not benefit from a loan for a 50-year mortgage? I would say people who are living in an extremely expensive housing market, first time home buyers with very, very limited income. And also, another thing to think about before we get up out of here, guys, we're getting close to that hour mark, is what about the elderly? What if somebody's 60 years old? Not to say that that's elderly, but what if you're 55, 60 and you want to buy a house and you say you want to get a 30-year mortgage? Is the bank going to lend? Is a bank going to do financing for 50 years for someone who's 65 years old, 50 years old, because they don't think you may make it to that point to pay it off? That's something else to think about as well. So I think certain people should probably avoid it, especially if you're not going to try to pay it off quicker. If I was getting close to the age of retirement, I wouldn't want a 50-year mortgage, although it might make it more affordable and maybe every year your cash flow increases. But I wouldn't want it because the mortgage is going to be like taking a majority of your monthly income. And so it's trapped into making that payment when you can get something sooner and pay a house off quicker. So anyway, those are some of the things we should think about as we go through all of this. Tony Sherman is basically saying he is a testimony that the HELOC does work. What we got, Pam, at 2.99% interest, would you look at paying it off earlier or keep it for tax breaks? Oh, good question. I like that question. Pam. Okay. I answer this pretty often. I have clients that I help and work with, and I see this all the time. The tax breaks that you're getting, Pam, you're talking about the interest that you pay on your mortgage. So whenever you pay interest, and I forgot what it comes on, the 1099 or whatever at the end of the year, 1099T, I can't remember. All right. So let's say you pay $2,000 worth of interest, $3,000 worth of interest on your mortgage for the year. And I don't even think the full $2,000 or $3,000 is written off. I think a portion of that is, right? But let's say it is $2,000. Boom. What if your mortgage payment is $1,000 every month? That's $12,000, Pamela. So now think about this, Pam. Would you rather recoup the $12,000 back in your pocket every year? $12,000 every year. Second year, $24,000. Third year, $36,000. You know what you can do with that money and how much money you can make that money make for you, and you can make the money multitask? I want y'all to really, really think about this, because that's exactly why on my website I have this shirt. Make money multitask. You all can go to my website. My website is down there at the bottom of the ticker, moving like clockwork. You can make money multitask to your benefit. And I'm going to answer your question, the pros and the cons, when you look at both scenarios, Pam. But just think about it. And if you all are going to go to my website, this is what you'll find. All you got to do is click on shop. And then when you click on shop, you'll see the shirts, and y'all can work the rest from there. There's different color shirts. You can order the color that you like. All right, now I got to get back to my regularly scheduled program. But definitely go patronize me, get you a shirt. Now, we got $12,000, Pam, that now we have every year. Or you can save or have a write-off of maybe $2,000. Do you want that $12,000 back in your pocket, or do you want to write off $2,000 worth of tax breaks? The $12,000 wins every time. So that's definitely a good question. And a lot of people are told not to pay off their home because they'll lose the tax break. I want to lose that tax break and gain my $12,000 back. Now, here's another thing. If I take that $12,000 and I invest it, I can essentially find creative ways to make my $12,000 make another $2,000 worth of tax breaks I was worried about. So I would rather have control of my money, make it multitask, and make me more money. And if I was worried about a $2,000 tax break, then I would just go study tax laws, get with my CPA or tax person, and figure out how I can find that $2,000, whatever, and recoup it in a different way. So don't worry about paying the house off early. Pay that house off early and get that money back in your pocket so you can use it to your benefit. All right. Triple D says he's got to get to work. So that means I don't know if you gonna make it to bowling today? Uh anyway, gotta get to work. Talk to guys forever till next time, but we definitely gotta link up because I know how to make money nice. But when it comes to the paperwork, I'm just not that smart on knowing all the odds ends of paperwork. No problem at all. That's what this community is for. Dante, I appreciate that. No problem at all. I enjoy taking this time out with you all. I'm interested in hearing y'all's comments and your thoughts as well. I like how of getting when you're talking about Pam's question. You probably meant something else. Oh, like how excited you got when talking about Pam's question. Yeah, because people ask that all the time. They have these myths out here about uh, paying your mortgage off and other financial myths that aren't true, that people need to know the truth about. But once again, I appreciate all of you all tuning in to Coach Steele's finance training. We talked about the pros and cons of this 50-year mortgage, how it could benefit us, how it may not benefit us. Tony Sherman says he wants nothing to do with them at all. I don't want anything to do with them, but I would definitely use one for a multifamily unit property. Let's say I can get one on a fourplex or a 12 unit apartment complex and I can make the payments lower and the tenants pay me and I get a higher profit margin. I would definitely do that. Set it and forget it. And then I can pass that property on to somebody else. So uh someone else can eventually pay it off, or either I just sell it later on or leverage the equity in it as well. So Mr. Tony took an aspirin. But Tony, you had to see one small benefit in it for the investor, or let's say you own the bank, Tony. If you had a bank, wouldn't it benefit you if you had large sums of money and someone wanted to, or let's say you had a house? Because you have to remember, and this is the last thing I'll say, it's almost 10 o'clock. I got to go because we're going bowling at 11. And so we got to try to go bowling again another time where Dante can make it, or just for the fellowship as well. But Tony, if you have a house and it's paid off, people sometimes want to do owner financing. And if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I want to do a 50-year amortized loan with you," and you work out and negotiate it, you become the bank, and Tony, now they pay you for 50 years. Now, let's say you don't want to get paid that long. Well, then if you have children, then that payment would then go to them or whoever's in the will or the trust that you set up. So it's just something to think about, especially if you don't need the money. But I wouldn't want to do a 50-year owner financing deal anyway either. So never mind. That's a bad example for somebody who doesn't like it. Y'all, thank y'all. Share the page, share the live with someone else. Also, make sure you go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. And look forward to seeing you all next Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone as usual. And if you subscribe, you'll see some other videos on my YouTube channel. I'm thinking about posting some other videos that I made. I have some videos that I made about other financial literacy that I haven't put out, but we will see. And special request, I'm going to do it. Normally, I will do it on different platforms, but I'll do it today. But Dante says, can we pray before we leave? We sure can. And then we will close this thing out. Father in heaven, we just thank you for an awesome time here on Coach Steele's Finance Training. It is truly, truly a blessing to come on here and educate ourselves. Your word declares that we perish for a lack of knowledge, and that concept works spiritually and physically. And so we do not want to perish for a lack of knowledge. We want to grow and we want to be fruitful. So God, continue to pour into our minds and our hearts and lead us to the right places, lead us to the right wells, to the right people, the right mentors that can educate us and guide us to the right platforms the right communities, God, so that we can continue to grow when it comes to financial literacy and learn these biblical principles that work to our benefit. You set them in place, God, and we desire to truly use them. We thank you and honor you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. If you do it right, God will bless it right. Go in peace.